Sweet Tooth Twins. I'm Shreya.
And I'm Shruti.
And today we're going to be making a very easy and simple bread recipe, more commonly known as dinner rolls or pao bread.
There are many other recipes just like ours, but as 14-year-olds, if we can make it, so can you. And these are ingredients.
So for today's recipe, you're going to need 3 cups all-purpose flour, 1 cup warm milk separated from 1/4 cup warm milk, and 1 tablespoon regular milk. You can use any type of milk, 2%, 1%, or whole milk. You're going to need 3 tablespoons of butter, 1 packet or 7 grams of yeast, ½ teaspoon salt, 2 teaspoons sugar, a sifter, a large bowl, something to make your bread in, and a spatula. To start off this recipe, the first step is to take the 1 cup of warm milk, the sugar, and the yeast and mix it together. So first you're going to add the sugar in. And now we're going to be adding in the yeast. Now we're going to mix it. And we're going to let it rise for about 5 minutes.
Now we're going to let our yeast rise. Until then, we're going to start by sifting our all-purpose flour and salts. Salt. Okay, so the yeast has rised and it should look like this, a little bit bubbly, and we're just gonna mix it a little bit.
So now that we have added the yeast into our flour, we're going to start putting it together slowly. You can use your hands or you can use an electric mixer. So now that our dough is put together, we're going to add another 1/4 cup warm milk. Be sure to add it in slowly. This is a step where you'll feel like you're doing something wrong, but it's perfectly okay because you're not. Alright, so now that we added the 1/4 cup warm milk, you can see that the dough is very well put together and very soft. So now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. We're going to be using the rest of the 1 tablespoon later. So now you're going to knead the dough again. This will take about 30 seconds. So after we added the butter into our dough, it's very well combined and we're ready to go on to one of the final steps before we leave the dough to rest. You have to make sure you knead it very, very properly, especially if you're doing this by hand. If you're using an electrical mixer, it'll be easier because it'll do the job for you. For now, we're going to move the dough onto a flatter platform. You can use your countertop as well. Make sure you lay some all-purpose flour before you start kneading the dough on the flatter platform.
So do you see how soft the dough is? Keep kneading it until it reaches this consistency. So the way you knead is you press it back and then you push it out and then you push it back in. You keep on repeating this about 50 times. Just make sure it comes out this smooth and soft. Our dough is ready. I kneaded the dough for about 15 minutes. So now we're gonna tuck it under like this and we're gonna place it in our bowl and we're gonna let it rest for an hour. We're gonna put a damp cloth on top of the bowl, and we're just gonna let it like this for 1 hour.
So since it's been about an hour since we've let our dough rise, let's check on our dough. Oh my God, as you can see, the yeast has done its magic. So now is the best part. So you just punch it, and then you're gonna knead it again. Okay, so now we're gonna bring our dough on a flat surface. So first put some all-purpose flour on your flat surface. Don't put too much. And now we're gonna put our dough, and we're gonna continue to knead it. Make sure you knead it in all different directions. So as you can see, now we're done kneading the dough and we're ready to cut.
We shaped the dough as a circle, and now we're gonna cut it into 8 parts so that each of them are equally divided.
So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the different pieces and you're gonna slowly tuck them in into your desired shape. Okay, so now that I've completed all 10 of the rolls, you can see that they're very round and that there's no visible cracks on the top. When you're doing it, it's okay if there's some visible cracks on the bottom because you can easily pinch it and close it up. Okay, so before we let our dough rest for another 20 minutes, we're first going to put a small layer of milk on top of each of the rolls. So now that we've finished applying a small layer of milk on top of each of the rolls, we're going to cover the tray up for another 20 minutes. Meanwhile, let's preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So now that we've waited 20 minutes, we have let it rise on its own after creating it into its different shapes. So now we're gonna pop it into the oven for about 20 minutes and we'll see you on the other side. So as you can see, the bread is very soft and fluffy